Right now at 6, a verdict in the trial of a McDonald County woman charged with murdering her husband.
And it's going to be a warm Friday, plus another severe weather threat in the forecast.
Plus, some local experts weigh in on the influence artificial intelligence could have on this year's election cycle.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Elise Noe.
And I'm Lindsay Gaffney.
Yes, we have Lindsay with us again for this finally Friday. Unfortunately, though, for our weekend plans, there might be a little bit of rain on our parade.
Yes, actually, that was a great way to put it. We have another severe weather threat tonight, so we'll go ahead and take a look outside. Until then, looking pretty good. Clear skies. You can see a gorgeous little sunrise going on out in 7th and Range Line. Clouds clear out, and then we're looking at another pretty warm day today. Unfortunately, we've got a couple more heat advisories in the forecast, but temperatures right now are looking all right. Lower 70s to 73 out in Joplin, 74 Miami, 72 Neodesha, 74 Cassville, so not so bad. Lower to mid 70s. They're going to continue to cool down over the next couple of hours before starting to warm right back up, where we see that heat advisory taking place for northeast counties in Oklahoma and northwest counties in Arkansas. The rest of us still going to be pretty warm out in Pittsburgh, Independence, Joplin, Monette. We're still seeing upper 90s for actual temperatures plus heat index values getting up to lower triple digits, so all the way up to about 105 degrees, which is hot and really muggy, but not quite high enough to issue a heat advisory. So just keep that in mind when you're planning your day. It's still going to be pretty warm. Temperatures getting up to about 96, 97, 98 across the region. Even some areas, especially in the southern counties, reaching triple digits. We also have another slight risk for severe storms tonight, a level 2 out of 5. Most of the severe threat is going to be for our southwestern counties, but it still clips into Pittsburgh, Joplin, south of Monette, and Chanute. So keep that in mind. Our threats are mostly holding off until about 8 p.m. all the way until 7 a.m. So we're going to have an all-night storm until early morning on Saturday, where we also have still a low risk for severe weather in the morning, and then an inch hail and 60 miles per hour wind gusts. So we're still seeing a few threats, but I'll talk more about that coming up.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. We'll check in with you soon. Well, the verdict is in. Jurors in McDonald County, Missouri, late yesterday have found Dawn Wynn guilty in the shooting death of her husband. Dawn Wynn is convicted on both counts, first-degree murder and armed criminal action for the November 2021 murder of her husband, Harold Wynn. The defense yesterday called witnesses who included detectives and law enforcement officers involved in the case. The defense argued that the initial investigation of the scene included a series of missteps and said there were no fingerprints on the murder weapon. Dawn Wynn declined the opportunity to testify in her defense. You'll find more details on this case on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. And to be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, you can download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. Artificial intelligence has skyrocketed in popularity in recent years, but a Pew Research study found 52% of Americans were more concerned than excited in regards to the growing technology. AI is able to generate images, videos, and even audio, but researchers have rising concerns about what AI might be used for this election season. A political science professor at Missouri Southern says there are several examples of the misuse of AI. In February of this year, voters received robocalls with the AI-generated voice of Joe Biden, and some people have questioned whether they can trust that images of campaign rallies are real.
Voters have a hard enough time trying to figure out the information that they need for local, state, and national elections when the information is accurate. And now we're asking folks to have to decipher what is real and what is not.
AI researchers say there are some ways you can help identify if the technology is being used in an image, video, or audio. They recommend looking at the small details of images and videos where AI still commonly warps. In audio, they say you should listen to the vocal inflections, as oftentimes audio will sound robotic if you are listening closely. Well, this week, Pitt State students are moving in to kick off the school year, bringing a lot of buzz to local businesses. KOAM's Melissa Alexis has more.
When the students are back, because it revitalizes town every year.
Community leaders are excited to see students streaming back into Pittsburgh, bringing their business and enthusiasm for a new Pitt State school year.
I'm very excited, especially because the atmosphere here is everybody's super close.
We've texted and FaceTimes all over during the summer, but I'm so excited because she's also a graduate assistant at the Center for Reading, so we'll be able to work together.
As the students roll in and their families help with move-in, they're looking to stock up with all the dorm necessities. Walker is stocking up with food from Ron's Supermarket and says the close location is convenient.
I get protein bars, and they sell all sorts of it, so I'll go there all the time, and it's just on the road, so I don't have to drive. I can just walk there.
The walkable distance benefits both students and businesses. Tim Rhodes from Ron's says they hire more employees to prepare for the influx of students.
Parents have to make sure that they've got a full refrigerator and stocked cupboards, so they stop by here and make sure that their kids are eating good.
Pitt State's classes officially start on Monday. Reporting in Pittsburgh, Melissa Alexis, KOAM News.
Well, some local stores like Ron's offer discounts to Pitt State students that show their ID, which is a big help for college students living on limited funds. Yesterday was also move-in day for students at Missouri Southern. There were a number of activities on campus to welcome new students, including a pep rally, convocation, and a campus craze. Officials say the residence halls on campus are at 99% capacity.
Well, I think that you only get to be a college freshman for once, and so I didn't want to do it online or even hybrid. I wanted to really live here, have really good roommates, make really good memories that I can look back on when I'm older.
Classes at Missouri Southern will also begin on Monday. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes, coming up on the KOAM Morning News. A man wrongfully convicted in Oklahoma will get a payment of more than $7 million. Plus, Vice President Kamala Harris is scheduled to make her first major speech on economic policy. And Lindsay Gaffney returns with another look at your Friday forecast. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's a live look from the Jesse James Days in Pineville, Missouri. Topping Nation Watch this morning. Some homeowners are rushing to refinance their mortgages now that rates have dropped. This week, the standard 30-year fixed rate mortgage averaged 6.49%. That was up slightly from the prior week, according to a report released by finance company Freddie Mac on Thursday. Last week, mortgage applications surged 17%, and the surge was driven by homeowners seeking to refinance, which was up by 35%, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. And mortgage rates are expected to drop even further this year, but it's unclear if they'll fall below 6%. Molson Coors is selling off its line of craft beers. The beer maker is selling the 4 brands to Tilray, a Canadian cannabis company that's been adding U.S. craft brewers to its portfolio. The brands are Terrapin in Georgia, Oregon's Hop Valley Brewing in Oregon, Revolver Brewing in Texas, and Michigan's Atwater Brewery. Molson Coors picked up 3 of the 4 brands in 2016, and the price of the sale to Tilray has not been disclosed. The deal is set to close this month, and Tilray's acquisition comes less than a year after it bought 8 beer and beverage brands from Anheuser-Busch InBev. Those include Blue Point and Shock Top. Tilray says the purchase from Molson Coors makes Tilray the 5th largest craft brewer in the United States. Well, have you ever heard of betting on swimming? Apparently, it's a thing at Notre Dame. The university has suspended its entire men's swimming program for at least a year after it found violations of the NCAA's gambling rules. The school wouldn't say exactly what happened, but Sports Illustrated journalist Pat Ford reported swimmers wagering on their own performances. Ford also said most of the returning teams is believed to have placed bets. Notre Dame officials said they are sorry swimmers who did not gamble are missing out on a year of competition. A wrongly convicted man who spent decades in prison will get a more than $7 million settlement. The city of Edmond, Oklahoma has agreed to pay Glenn Simmons after he served more than 48 years in prison. Simmons, now 71, was 22 when he and another man were convicted of murdering a woman during a robbery in 1974. Simmons was released on bond in July 2023 after a judge vacated his 1975 judgment and sentence at the request of the Oklahoma County District Attorney. His release came after the district attorney's office found evidence was withheld from his defense attorneys. The settlement resolves Simmons' claims against the city of Edmond and the estate of a former Edmond detective. Additional claims against Oklahoma City and a police detective are still pending. Well, soon, Vice President Kamala Harris will travel to Raleigh, North Carolina to give her first major economic policy speech as the 2024 Democratic candidate. Yesterday, the vice president joined President Joe Biden at an event in Maryland in a show of party unity just days before the Democratic National Convention gets underway. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump slammed his opponents at a news conference in New Jersey and defended his running mate from campaign attacks. Jared Hill has the latest from New York.
One day after her first joint event with President Biden since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris is set to lay out her first major policy proposal in battleground North Carolina. The economic plan focused on lowering prices and ending price gouging.
My entire career, I've worked to hold bad actors accountable.
At yesterday's official White House event in Maryland, President Biden praised his VP.
She's going to make one hell of a president.
And threw in some personal digs at his predecessor.
The guy we're running against, what's his name? Donald Dump or Donald whatever.
At a news conference at his golf club in New Jersey, Trump focused on food prices and lobbed insults of his own at Harris.
I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence. And I think she'll be a terrible president.
Trump also defended his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance.
She called J.D. and I weird. He's not weird. He was a great student at Yale.
Vance and Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz are now both confirmed for CBS News vice presidential debate on October 1st. Meanwhile, we're getting our first look at the stage of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, where Harris and Walz will formally accept their party's nominations next week. Jared Hill, CBS News.
This weekend, both candidates will hit the campaign trail in Pennsylvania. Former President Trump will rally in Wilkes-Barre on Saturday, and the next day, Vice President Harris and Governor Walz will launch a bus tour in Pittsburgh. And that's a look at some of today's top national stories. Here's Lindsay with a look at your forecast.
Shaping up to be a pretty good looking day. It's still going to be warm. Temperatures getting to the upper 90s and heat index values all the way up to about 105. So it's still going to be hot, pretty muggy. We also have another severe threat for severe weather tonight. Only a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, coming in after 8 p.m. and continuing all night and into early Saturday morning.
Well, you're never too old for a bucket list. A 102-year-old Wisconsin woman just became one of the oldest people to throw out a first pitch at a Major League Baseball game. She's a longtime Brewers fan and has now completed a lifelong dream of hers. Megan Marshall reports.
Ruth Werning got her shining moment before Thursday's game against the Dodgers.
Brewers fans, please welcome 102-year-old superfan Ruth Werning.
The crowd went wild watching Werning strike out an item on her bucket list. I was was lucky enough to catch up with her when she was still practicing for the big moment.
Oh, it's just exciting. I mean, not everybody 102 years old gets to throw a ball at the Brewer game.
I met her the day before at her apartment at Harwood Place, a senior living community in Wauwatosa.
I'm ready for that ball game.
She played the sport as a kid and has been a Brewers fan since she was 6 years old. That was 1928, when the Brewers were still just a minor league team in Milwaukee.
One more now, watch out.
Ruth's daughter lives nearby, but Ruth's oldest son came a long way to help her practice.
Yay, see, strike. I can throw them straight at you.
He flew in from Thailand to witness the big first pitch and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in person.
Mom has taught us not to be too surprised by the many adventures she gets into. This was a new one, though. Very exciting. I can't wait to share this with the rest of the family.
The staff at Harwood Place helped make this happen to celebrate the senior living community's 35th anniversary. They asked residents about their bucket list items and began a quest to make as many happen as possible.
Our whole goal at our organization at Harwood Place is to be able to make sure that everyone's current stage in life is as fulfilling as the rest of their life, and I think this really helps us bring some joy.
And as she rallied the crowd and her favorite team, Ruth proved age is just a number.
Well, Ruth may have been good luck for the team because the Brewers defeated the Dodgers on Thursday. Now here's Lindsay with a quick look at your forecast.
Well, we do still have some heat advisories for northeast Oklahoma and for northwest Arkansas. Heat index getting up to about 105, but still all of our counties are going to be pretty hot, pretty muggy for the rest of the day into the evening. We also have another severe threat, slight risk, level 2 out of 5 for severe weather this evening. Well, it's looking pretty good out there downtown Joplin. You can see sunrise, clear skies. Temperatures are going to drop a little bit further in the lower 70s before warming right back up because we do still have heat advisories for northeast Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas. Heat index for those areas getting up to 105. The rest of us, it's still going to be pretty hot, still going to be pretty muggy, so temperatures getting into the upper 90s and heat index values still reaching up to 100, 102, 103 as a max for today. So it's still going to be pretty hot, just not as hot as what it was yesterday. We have clouds starting to move out following the storms that we had this morning, and we're going to have pretty clear skies for the rest of the day. It's going to be sunny all morning long. Temperatures, like I said, drop a little bit, but then warm right back up. By noon, getting into the upper 80s. Our high for today, about 96, 97 across the area. And then we start to see more rain chances kicking back up. So starting around 8 p.m., 9 p.m., starting to spike. And we see rain chances really pretty high, around 80% chance of rain after midnight. And that continues into the early morning hours on Saturday. We've got a slight risk, so level 2 out of 5, not a super severe threat, but still it is August. We're not really expecting this high of a severe threat as early as we are, but we've got one, and hail and winds are our main threat. You can see a little hatch zone in our far western counties where it's a significant chance for hail to develop in those areas, but still elevated risk for hail and winds. Hail up to an inch and wind gusts up to about 60 miles per hour. So we've got a possible severe threat for tonight. As those storms start to roll in around 8 p.m., you can see Nevada, Yates Center, Fort Scott, a few isolated storms starting to push into the area. Those continue south about 10:30 p.m., so it's a little slow moving along the boundary, and then following the boundary as it passes, a few more clusters of thunderstorms starting to fire up behind that. So we're going to see pretty scattered chances of thunderstorms this evening and overnight. So this is still about 1:30 in the morning and widespread scatter of thunderstorms. And you can see where the pink is, those isolated storms and spots where we're going to possibly see that severe threat kicking up. Now, the slight risk is for Yates Center, Parsons, Pittsburgh, Joplin, down to Monette. So our northeast counties, not as high of a threat, but still pretty strong storms. And again, hail and winds gusting up to 6 miles per hour are the main threat. So those continue well into the morning on Saturday. This is still 7:30 in the morning. Joplin's still getting hit pretty hard. Pittsburgh, Parsons, Chanute, all the way down to Monette, Bella Vista. Those are going to continue to move south, moving out by about 10 a.m. And then we're shaping up to have a pretty good day on Saturday. Now, you can see temperatures only getting up to 92, 93 across the region. And then we've got another low risk for storms, but mostly in our area, we're really just expecting a couple isolated showers, and stronger development happens just east of us. So temperatures drop after storms tonight down to average temperatures and even a little bit below average for the weekend and early half of the week. And then we start to warm right back up by next weekend. Let's go over to Elise with Health Watch.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Well, new research shows it's possible to reverse some age-related damage to the brain. A study on mice by the University of Rochester found they could use drugs to partially restore the brain's ability to remove harmful waste. Toxic buildup in the brain is a factor in diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. The findings could one day help create new treatments for the diseases. Well, a warning to coffee addicts: too much caffeine can increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. A report presented at the American College of Cardiology found drinking over 400 milligrams of caffeine could increase your blood pressure and heart rates. That adds up to about 4 cups of coffee, 10 cans of soda, or 2 energy drinks in a day. Exposure to loud noises doesn't just damage your ears. A study in Bangladesh found people exposed to loud sounds at work had a 10% chance of higher blood pressure. It's thought that the body's stress response to high volume noise causes hormonal imbalances that could potentially cause permanent damage. Well, the use of weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy has boomed in recent years, with sales of the top drugs reaching $15 billion in 2023. But off-brand, compounded versions of the medication are also growing fast, and with them, the chance of complications. Bradley Blackburn explains how the FDA is now warning about overdoses.
The ads are everywhere.
To lose 15% of your body weight.
Many companies promising weight loss drugs for way less money than name brand prescriptions.
For as little as $1.99 per month, including options compounded in the USA.
For Becky Chairs, the deal was too good to pass up.
$295 a month or something. Let's see how it goes.
The family therapist says she got a prescription for compounded semaglutide online, but when she received her first shipment from a compounding pharmacy, she misunderstood the instructions and accidentally overdosed.
My first dose was really supposed to be like 0.5 units, like really tiny dose. And I gave myself 5 times the dose. At like 9 o'clock at night, I was going, man, I'm feeling sick.
Because name brands like Ozempic are on the FDA's drug shortage list, compounded versions of semaglutide are allowed on the market. Compounding pharmacists can alter or combine medications and tailor them to individual patients. But recently, the FDA put out a warning those compounded drugs often don't come pre-measured. They've received reports of hospitalizations from overdoses with symptoms like nausea and severe vomiting that can last a week. CBS News medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder says compounded drugs come with many unknowns.
They have not been safety tested. We don't know if they're as effective as the prescription drug. So it's really hard to say, is what you're getting really equivalent or not? We just don't know.
Chairs is still taking the medicine, pleased with her results, but she's noticed dosage can change from one shipment to the next.
The type is so small on them, I can barely read it. Absolutely make sure you're doing the right dose.
A warning for the millions now turning to these drugs. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
The FDA says patients should talk with their doctor or compounding pharmacy to understand how to measure and administer the intended dose, and compounded drugs should only be used when an FDA-approved medicine is unavailable. And that's a look at some of today's top health stories. We'll be right back. Right now at 6:30, a new piece of equipment will help firefighters in Fort Scott save more lives.
And we have a pretty hot day, plus another severe weather threat coming in later this evening.
Plus, we'll learn why the city fountain in Columbus, Kansas was a bit more bubbly than usual.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:33. I'm Elise Noe.
And I'm Lindsay Gaffney.
And you know what? It started off to be a pretty good morning, but I know that's going to change, but we can enjoy it for now.
Hey, I'm off tonight, so I get to enjoy the thunderstorms from the comfort of my own home. But we do have thunderstorms coming in later this evening. Until then, it's going to be a pretty gorgeous day. Still warm, it is August, but look at that sunrise out in 7th and Rangeline. Temperatures getting up to the upper 90s again today. Heat index value up to 100, 105. So again, it's still going to be pretty warm today, but temperatures right now, 74 out in Carthage and Miami, 71 in Parsons, 70 in Yates Center. So we're cooling down to the lower 70s before we warm right back up and have some heat advisories in the area as well. Northeast Oklahoma and Northwest Arkansas, heat index getting up to 105 in those areas. The rest of us are still going to be pretty hot, pretty muggy all day today. Temperatures, like I said, getting into the upper 90s. Droplands forecast at about 97 in surrounding counties, about the same upper 90s, even reaching low triple digits in the southern counties. So we are having those pretty hot conditions, but it's going to be mostly sunny all day long. Clouds have moved out of here following the storms from earlier this morning and late last night, but we also have another slight risk for storms later on this evening, not moving in until after 8 p.m., but we do have that slight risk level 2 out of 5. Main threats are going to be 1-inch hail and 60 miles per hour wind gusts, plus might see some localized flooding, but I'll have more details coming up.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Well, Joplin Fire Station number 4 hosted a wet down ceremony yesterday. The public and city officials turned out for the ceremony, which was the second one in successive weeks. Kids also helped the firefighters get the new engine bright and shiny before pushing it into the bay. The tradition of wetting down a new fire vehicle goes all the way back to the 1800s. And thanks to the donation of a local business, first responders at the Fort Scott Fire Department will get some new equipment. It's called the Victim Drag Strap. The strap is meant to be worn by the firemen and make the job of rescuing a victim from an emergency situation easier. The strap can also be used to help fellow firefighters. Yesterday, the creators of the equipment were able to show the Fort Scott Department how to properly install, clean, and use the strap in a variety of situations.
So we thought this is going to be something that we can do to help our community. And so we donated those straps, and today they're getting trained on how to use them. And it's something I hope they don't ever have to use, but if the need comes, that they'll be prepared.
The department says they will continue training with the strap and will start implementing it. The Salvation Army of Jasper Newton counties got in on the back to school fun yesterday. The day-long bash provided dinner and snacks, as well as Nerf and gel blasters, video and board games, and a ton of indoor and activities with fun for all of the kids. One organizer said the goal for the day was to have fun and make some new friends.
God is always around, and even when times are tough or it's really hot outside, we can still have fun and enjoy life with our neighbors and friends. And you can always make plenty of friends. Just give people a chance.
The bash was open to the public, and people who attended were encouraged to give a non-perishable item to donate to the Salvation Army food pantry. Well, residents in Columbus, Kansas know when students are headed back to school, and not based on the students entering the school, but the foam exiting the city's fountain. Columbus High School seniors kicked off the school year with an annual foam prank. The yearly prank is a way to launch the new school year with some good, clean fun. Rain couldn't keep the cattle away from the Interstate County Fairgrounds yesterday morning in Coffeyville, Kansas. This is the 117th year of the fair, and yesterday was the final day of the PRCA Pro Rodeo event. But there's also plenty of livestock shows and exhibits.
So my parents, they both showed when they were little, and they kind of passed it on to us. We've raised cattle our whole lives, and it's just a really fun thing that we've gotten involved in.
Families can also enjoy a carnival and motocross shows from now until Saturday evening. And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. If it's Friday, you know what that means. We've got Shannon Becker live in studio to help us close out the week with his Big 3 news stories. And we have a hot and partly cloudy day today. We'll have what to expect with Lindsay Gaffney in the Skywatch Weather Center. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's a live look from Jesse James Days in Pineville, Missouri. Welcome back. We've got Shannon Becker in the studio with his Big 3 news stories of the week. Good morning to you, Shannon. Happy Friday as always.
Well, you as well. You look fantastic as always.
Thank you. So kind.
Let's take a look at our Big 3 stories of the week. This week, number 3, well, it was a paradise for some people. Copper wire. You know, that's pretty popular nowadays, I hear.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
A whole semi-tractor trailer full of copper wire overturned. It was all over the grass beside the highway. I just imagine like people, you know, rushing out of the trees to come and get, but no, it was clean.
Don't need to go to Home Depot anymore.
Nope, not at all. So no one was arrested either. The driver was all right. It happened in Joplin in the middle of the night yesterday morning. They took a while to clean that up. It was kind of an awkward position as the whole box had broken open. Once again, nobody was injured, but it did cause traffic delays on Thursday morning. Number 2 story, KOAM News Now, Joplin News First, what's live and local happening where you live. The last 3 days we've spent in the murder trial of Dawn Wynn. Yesterday afternoon, after 5 hours of deliberation, it came back the verdict. Guilty on both counts, first-degree murder and also armed criminal action. If you remember, it was November of 2021 when Dawn shot her husband, now convicted of shooting her husband in a fifth-wheel camper just outside of Anderson, Missouri. She was actually on the run. She absconded for about 6 months, ran off to Indiana. She had left a suicide note where she had some bond conditions. She was staying in a residence, and then she disappeared. So, you know, that's always a bad sign of your guilt if you go off to start a new life. Yeah, of course. So that was all presented at the trial as well. More details on that case on our website, KOAM News Now. And then our number 1 story of the week down in McDonald County. A teenage boy drowned on the Elk River right there off downtown in Knoll. Well, we were there, and Freeman Ambulance, here's what happened. Bystanders heard people yelling for help, went down, got the boy out of the water, no pulse, not breathing, life-saving measures, didn't know how long he'd been underwater. Found out more details yesterday to update the story. He is responding. He flew him to a Springfield hospital. He's in ICU stable, but responding to commands. So that is amazing. That is amazing. They're estimating he could have been underwater for 3 to 4 minutes. But the people that came to help were just some random people. Also, there was an off-duty Anderson police officer, and this was in Knoll.
Some good Samaritans,
Yeah. So, and then McDonald County Sheriff's Office, Knoll Marshals. It was a group effort. It was really, it's a really amazing story.
Wow.
I mean, he's 15 years old. And then our bonus story of the week. A lot of people have been telling me, oh my gosh, that Missouri State Highway Patrol helicopter is back. No, it's not. All right. This is actually some amazing video my friend Steve took. This is Liberty Utilities.
Okay.
They fly along the lines every year about this time.
Interesting.
They use infrared cameras, and then they also check the vegetation to see what needs to be cleaned up. It saves a ton of time instead of driving along all these lines. So they just boop, 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 do it all. They fly all over the country, of course, at all the different Liberty locations. But if you see this helicopter, just look for the letters and numbers on the side of it. That is the identifier. And in fact, Steve waved at them and they waved back. So, you know, Highway Patrol, they don't fly that low, by the way. You know, they're very, very low. Just above those lines. Yeah. It's interesting. Take a look on our website. You'll have to follow me sometime. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. It's KOAM News Now, Joplin News First, live and local.
Wonderful. Well, as always, Shannon, thank you for being with us this morning. Happy to have you as always. Stick around. We're back with more right after this. Well, it's time to celebrate some Friday birthdays here in the 4 states, starting off with Tennessee Spillman celebrating birthday number 3. It says, happy birthday, little man, from Daddy, Papa, Mima, Bella, and Sam. Happy birthday.
And celebrating his 5th birthday, Bode Schaefer from Altamont.
And over in Carl Junction, a happy 35th birthday to Kaylee Dudley.
And happy birthday to Brian Clugston from Columbus, Kansas.
And over in Chetopa, happy birthday to Linda Crocker. It says here, happy birthday from your Center Christian Church family.
And there's another birthday at the Center Christian Church family for Shirley Bell Rooney out in Chetopa. It also says happy birthday.
And a happy birthday to James Robinson, who's the overnight morning TMO here at KOAM. He's also a U.S. Navy vet, so thank you for your service and happy birthday, James.
And Linda Crotts celebrating her birthday out in Baxter Springs.
And happy birthday to Austin Egbert. We're celebrating him over in Texas.
And least but not last, happy birthday to Pam Wydick, celebrating her birthday. Happy birthday, Pam.
Well, great list of birthdays. And happy birthday to everyone on this list. And if you would like us to celebrate your birthday with you or your anniversary, you can go ahead and submit them to birthdays@KOAMnewsnow.com. And be sure to meet the deadline that you see there at the bottom of your screen. Now let's take it on over to Lindsay for another look at the forecast.
Well, out in downtown Joplin, you can see it's a pretty nice looking morning. We've got a great sunrise, clear skies, and a nice little breeze from the south as well. Still, temperatures are going to be pretty warm today, getting up to the upper 90s, and heat index values reaching triple digits. In the southern counties, getting all the way up to about 105 for our max heat index for the day. But the rest of us are still going to be pretty hot and muggy. It's going to be humid, hot day, high temperatures, but only heat advisories for northeast Oklahoma and for northwest Arkansas. The rest of us, hot temperatures, not hot enough to issue a heat advisory though. Still, take precautions. Clouds are starting to completely move out of our area, and then we're going to have a pretty sunny day for the rest of the day. Temperatures warming up all the way and up to the upper 80s for our high by noon, and getting up to upper 90s again for our high for the day. Temperatures up to 96, 97 out in Joplin and surrounding counties. We also have a frontal boundary moving in tonight, dropping rain starting as early as about 8 p.m. But you can see how it ticks up after midnight, up to about 80% chance of rain for the rest of the evening and overnight hours, continuing until about 7 a.m. We've got a slight risk for storms, so that's a level 2 out of 5 risk, not incredibly high, but still low and severe. And our threats, hail and wind, we're not looking at a high tornado threat or any at all for our area, but we do have that elevated risk for hail significant. You can see where the little black lines are. That's a hatch zone, meaning pretty significant development of hail in that area. So it's going to be just west of us, but still elevated risk for hail up to 1 inch and wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. So we'll go ahead and look at the future track. We've got a few storms moving in, like I said, as early as about 8:30. Nevada, Fort Scott, Yates Center, all getting some of that rain starting about 8, continuing south by about 10:30. So it's a little slow moving, but you can see where that initial line of storms is moving down into southeast Kansas and southwest Missouri, moving into the Joplin Metro Carl Junction area. They're going to continue to move south, that initial line, but following the line of storms along the frontal boundary, you can see a cluster of storms forming behind that boundary. So then for the rest of the overnight hours, late evening and early Saturday morning, we're going to see scattered thunderstorms, and again, a high threat for hail and winds, high for August. So those are going to continue to move in southwest Missouri until about 4:35 a.m., then finally pushing out of the far southwestern counties about 7:38 a.m., moving out of the Arkansas area by about 10 a.m. So clear out of our area by 10 a.m. and the rest of the day looking pretty good. So along that boundary, it's a cold front moving in. So temperatures drop only to about 92, 93. So right about average instead of above average for this time of year. And then we've also got another low risk for storms Saturday as well. But you can see in our area, just a few isolated showers in the Missouri side, but that main threat is going to be mostly off to the east, so east of Springfield. We're likely not going to see much going on Saturday, but still low risk, so we'll keep that in mind. But after the storms Friday night and Saturday morning, temperatures drop down to about average for the weekend and even below average for the early half of the week. And then we see a couple of pop-up storms as well for the early half of the week, but not a severe threat like we're seeing today and tomorrow morning. But coming up when the KOAM morning news switches on over to Fox 14, we'll learn about a new type of fishing that is gaining popularity.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The verdict is in. Donna Wynn is convicted on both counts, first-degree murder and armed criminal action for the November 2021 murder of her husband, Harold Wynn. The defense argued that the initial investigation of the scene included a series of missteps and said there were no fingerprints on the murder weapon. Donna Wynn declined the opportunity to testify in her defense. And thanks to the donation of a local business, first responders at the Fort Scott Fire Department will have some new equipment. It's called the Victim Drag Strap. The strap is meant to be worn by the firemen and make the job of rescuing a victim from an emergency situation easier. Joplin Fire Station number 4 hosted a wet down ceremony. The public and city officials turned out for the ceremony, which was the second one in successive weeks. The tradition of wetting down a new fire vehicle goes back to the 1800s. And that's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Well, we do have a severe risk for storms tonight. It's a slight risk, so a level 2 out of 5. Those storms start to roll in as early as 8 p.m. and continue into the morning on Saturday. Still a risk for the severe weather all the way through the evening and early into Saturday. Temperatures drop after that for the weekend down to average and a little bit below average.
The rain's always welcomed, but maybe not in this way, but I guess we'll just have to see.
Well, luckily I will be off tonight, so I get to enjoy the storms from the comfort of my own home.
Absolutely. Well, coming up today at noon, we're making Louisiana shrimp bake in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
And your morning news continues on KOAM with CBS Mornings.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, we'll learn how a beekeeping program helps connect those with disabilities to the outdoors.
Plus, Shannon Becker joins us back in the studio to talk about the big 3 news stories of the week. But that'll wrap it up for now. We'll see you back here Monday morning at 9 a.m.
And we'll see you today at noon.